As fearmongers assault the Foundation, Sid gets energized. However, seeing that they are going to kill Rose, he bounces in, expressing to himself that as a Foundation character, it's his job to be first killed by them. Rose asks why he offered his life to save her. However, at that point surmises he cherished her, which makes sense of why he was spurred to continue to stand when he battled her and why he gave his life. The fear-based oppressors then move every one of the understudies to the hall. Sid begins hitting his heart, and as it begins pulsating once more, he awakens. He uncovers it was his mysterious procedure where he stops his heart for 10 minutes, yet keeps up with standard blood flow to his cerebrum. His sorcery is as yet impeded. Yet he can utilize it on the off chance that he limits it to strings. Rex goes into Sherry's room. He states he is from Shadow Nursery, however at that point contemplates whether it was Shadow Gatekeeper. He makes sense of his responsibility is to recover the antiquity, and whenever he is finished, he is permitted to unleash as much devastation as he needs. Rex then, at that point, sees the antique in Sherry's grasp, however as he goes after her, Glenn stops him. Rex is dazzled. He figured out how to do it without sorcery, and Rex makes sense of it simple when his adversary is more fragile. While Glenn and Marco keep the psychological militants occupied, they let Sherry take off. Sid notices the development of the fearmongers and is very amped up for the entire circumstance. He is irritated they were all dark as they aren't doing it appropriately. He chooses to appear around evening time and kills many of them, so he shows up more straightforward. He sees a young lady running and nearly asking to be caught, and acknowledges she is Sherry. While she moves around, Sid winds up taking out a few psychological militants, saving her from being caught or identified. Sherry winds up stumbling on the steps and falls, however Sid catches her. He has a few things to tell her, yet first requests that she eliminate her loud shoes. Prior to contacting her dad's room, Sid winds up taking out a couple of additional fearmongers. Sherry finds the book she was searching for and makes sense of that the antique Eye of Greed is the one that impedes their enchantment. The ancient rarity assimilates and stores the sorcery from any client, yet overlooking a few mysterious frequencies can be customized. Sherry gets it can ingest enchanted follows that are too little to even consider identifying or strong spells that surpass its ability, but there is definitely not a human equipped for doing the second. When the ancient rarity had ingested all it could assimilate, it will deliver all the put-away energy on the double. Since every one of the understudies are in the assembly room, Sherry surmises that the antique is someplace close by, and assuming it delivers all the energy it will explode and kill all in the amphitheater. Thus, Sherry expresses her dad didn't distribute his discoveries and gave the curio to the public authority for protection. Sherry likewise makes sense of that the curio she was exploring is utilized to control the Eye of Veracity and store the energy for a long haul. Sherry anticipates utilizing the storm cellars and arrive at the assembly hall. When she is near the Eye of Veracity, she will initiate this antique and prevent the Eye of Covetousness from detonating. In any case, she left the entirety of her devices expected to adjust this ancient rarity in her room. Sid then, at that point, states he will get them for herself and leaves her. Rex reports to the Clique Knight that a portion of their men had been taken out by somebody gifted and surmises that Shadow Nursery is here. As Rex actually haven't acquired the antique, the Religion Knight compromises him to proceed to find it or he will kill him. The Faction Knight takes note of that once his aspirations are understood, he will be re-established in the Knights of Rounds. Rex is strolling with 4 men, yet in a moment he winds up losing them. As Sid then hits him before Rex figures out how to respond. Thinking Sid is quick because of a curio, Rex makes a net around himself, expressing that regardless of how quick Sid is, the second he gets found out in his net, he will be aware. He then, at that point, pivots and sees that Sid is as of now inside his net. Sid continues going after Rex and in the long run takes him in a homeroom with each seat taken by a dead fear-based oppressor. As Sid assaults Rex once more, he takes note of that Rex is wonderful. In the meantime, New finds the dead collection of Glenn and Marco. who is as yet alive however taken out. After a second, Sid shows up and begins searching for Sherry's instruments. Nu makes sense of that Marco was her pledged. She then, at that point, makes sense of that Shadow Nursery had invaded the Institute and are anticipating orders. Nonetheless, she makes sense of that not having the option to utilize sorcery is a gamble and just the 7 shadows can get it done. Presently just Gamma is in the capital, however this sort of mission isn't her specialty. Indeed, Nu herself can use about portion of her power at this moment. As she proceeds with her report, Sid requests that she assist him with discovering a few things. In the wake of acquiring every one of the apparatuses, Sid makes sense of he really wanted them to calibrate a relic and that Eye of Eagerness is engrossing their enchantment. When they fine-tune the other antique, they can kill the night before greed. Sid then, at that point, carries the instruments to Sherry, who starts adjusting the antique. Nu then, at that point, chooses to leave after she gives Marco a slight injury on his neck.